This morning inside your spotlight, we have the Minister of Public Utilities, the Honorable Marvin Gonzales, because we're talking about, well, generally the update on Trinidad and Tobago's IDB loan program for national water sector transformation. Back in March 2023, we had the first signing for the first individual operation for the national water sector transformation program in the amount of $80 million, and it's supposed to be executed by the Ministry of Public Utilities, with the Water and Sewage Authority acting as a sub-executing agency. Good morning to you, Mr. Minister.
Good morning, Rokas, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
How are we doing this morning?
I'm a bit exhausted. I had a very busy weekend of political activities. I had my annual cricket tournament in Lupino, Borneo West.
How was it? The weather didn't ruin it, right?
No, it rained early, so we had a 1 hour delay. So it was scheduled to start at 9 o'clock. We started at 10, and it was finished after 11 last night. So I'm well attended. The weather held up nicely. The community came out from all areas of the constituency. We had about 10 or 12 teams participating, and congratulations to the team in Dabadi because they won it on 2 consecutive occasions.
Nice.
With the first prize of $7,000.
Nice. Love that. All right, so keep the community alive. But let me talk wider than the community, because now we're going to affect the country. We see the weather changing, we see the rains coming. Does that bear any fruit on Wausau? Does that bear any fruit for you?
It is easing the tension a little bit.
Right.
But unfortunately, our reservoirs, we have not gotten any, sufficient volumes of rain to replenish the reservoirs, the depleted reservoirs in Hillsborough, Caroni Arena, Navet, Hollis. The reservoirs are basically the same. What is very interesting, especially as a result of climate change, is that the rain are not falling in areas that it really matters. So Caroni Arena, they have not been, gathering the amount of rain to replenish that reservoir. The same for Navet, and the same for Hollis. So Hillsborough, the same. When I spoke to my colleagues in Tobago, the Colon River was very, very low still. So, but we are seeing the signs that the rainy season is coming in incrementally, but we have not received the volumes of rain to start replenishing our reservoirs. So the restrictions are still in place, and we are asking customers and citizens to exercise quite a bit of caution and conservation in the way that we manage our water resource, because we are still not out of the red as yet. So we're hoping that in the coming weeks we see increased rainfall activity so that our reservoirs can be properly replenished.
Well, it looks like today they have a proper donation going into them reservoirs, so hopefully we're able to see the fruits of that.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, so the National Water Sector Transformation Program has been ongoing. We've been seeing the reports, different things have been happening.
Yes.
Tell me, firstly, what is the agreement with the IDB when it comes to this loan?
Right, so in 2022-2023, when we started the discussion with the IDB for a conditional credit line, for water sector transformation in Trinidad and Tobago, the IDB offered a total CLIP, as we call it CLIP, conditional credit line of improvement program for the water sector. And the whole objective is to increase and improve water sector transformation in Trinidad and Tobago, and to ensure that we have water security.
So that's with all the reservoirs being full?
That's correct.
All right. I have to make sure we had to link it back and make sure we're on the same page, right?
So the total clip is $315 million. Okay. But the clip will be broken up into several loan components. So the clip, $315 million to be executed or implemented over a 10-year period.
Okay.
All right? The first loan component is the sum of $80 million, all right? Which is what we are trying to operationalize right now.
Right.
But you don't get $80 million once you sign, $80 million once you sign that contract. Once you sign that contract, there are strict IDB requirements and conditions that you must satisfy. You must identify the various projects. You must enter into a robust procurement strategy as you roll out these projects. And as you make incremental strides towards project execution, the IDB will release sums of money so that you can meet contractual obligation until the end of the first loan operation, which is really called to be 4 to 5 years. But
the first part of it is 4 to 5 years?
4 to 5 years. But the improvements that we have made and the governance arrangement that we put in place at the Ministry of Public Utilities, WASA, and NIBDEC also being a sub-executing agency, I can tell you that the IDB itself was quite impressed and surprised at the extent to which we complied with all their requirements, to the extent now that we are about to execute a number of contracts under the first loan component. And I think that is the reason why this interview is very critical, because next week we will be signing a number of major contracts for refurbishment of our plants, new water treatment plants, the drilling of wells, the replacement of aging infrastructure, and what have you. And that is where you start drawing down on the first loan operation of $80 million US.
Right, so I was going to ask, so now that we're ready to sign these contracts, it means that we have access to the money, or it means that we're now going to access the actual fund?
So we have been accessing the money.
Okay.
Right, so the early disbursements is really to deal with putting together your project implement or execution units. So your project execution unit was in the Ministry of Public Utilities,
right,
and you have a sub project execution agency in the Water and Sewage Authority. You have we entered into an arrangement with NIBDEC to manage some components of our procurement. So you have to pay NIBDEC their project management fees and what have you. And then we employed a number of people and technocrats and skilled persons to manage this loan for us under these various arrangements on our project execution unit, etc. So the first set of disbursements that we got was to address some of these administrative issues.
So basically set up the support system.
Setting up the support system, exactly. Mm-hmm. Now that we have entered into a robust procurement arrangement over a year, meeting all of the requirements of the OPR and the IDB, putting out public tenders, designing projects, and what have you. Mm-hmm. We are now at a stage where we have selected contractors to implement some of the key areas under the various items under that loan. Mm-hmm. And next week we'll be entering into these contracts so that these projects can now be rolled out all across the country, and we can discuss some of these projects.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because when you talk about water sector transformation, what are some of the things, all right, so we have the support staff, but what are some of the things that we need before, because we're just going to go out and buy a bunch of new things and say, look, the water sector change.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that need to happen or that need to be implemented as we go along?
So, all right, so under the second item of the loan, we have support for water sector transformation, as well as strengthening institutional capacity under the Ministry of Public Utilities and WASA. Because we recognize over the years, a number of loans were entered into with the IDB, and the citizens of this country, to the tune of billions of dollars, and the citizens of the country did not experience the improvement in their supply of water. We didn't have water security. We heard in 2000 water for all. And 20 years or 25 years after, you can ask the question, did we achieve water for all? It did not make sense that we continue doing the same thing over and over again. And one of the things that we recognize in discussing with the IDB is that we need to improve institutional capacity to ensure that we have good managers, to ensure that we have an arrangement so that we can protect our water resource and our water resources, ensuring that all of the stakeholders that play a role in our water ecosystem, they do so under a very robust institutional and governance framework, and as well as to ensure that we prepare the water sector as we face the ravages and the challenges of climate change and what have you. So that is the second component or the second item under the loan. Right. And we are rolling out that. 2 years ago, we put together an integrated water resource management plan for Trinidad and Tobago, and the implementation of that plan will be funded under the second item of that loan. So we have a consultant on board. We are putting together the necessary arrangement to separate the Water Resource Agency from the Water and Sewage Authority so that can be set up as an independent agency to manage and to ensure that we have proper water sector governance and to ensure that we recruit all of the necessary professionals that can work with the government, with the Water and Sewage Authority and all of the stakeholders to ensure that we manage our water resources in Trinidad and Tobago.
Tell me why that's necessary if we already have an authority that's supposed to be managing water and sewage.
So, and that is a very good question, Rokas. The Water and Sewage Authority is an operator in the water sector. Mm-hmm. It is not a regulator.
So the authority there just for kicks?
So no.
Just to make it a nice acronym?
No. The Act, the Water and Sewage Authority Act places an obligation on WASA to ensure that we provide portable water to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, right, and wastewater services, right, to ensure that you get water to wash our wares, to bathe, to flush our toilets, etc. That is the role of the water sector, the Water and Sewage Authority. That is an important player. It operates the water sector to ensure that you and I and the citizens get a reliable supply of water. But a regulator, the role of a regulator is different, because it means that you have to manage your water resources in a way that we don't jeopardize it. You're talking about our water, extracting water from our underground aquifers, extracting water from our rivers.
But doesn't WASA do that now?
WASA is doing that,
right.
But it must be done in a regulated manner, because if it is not done in a regulated manner, you can undermine your water and your water resources, so that we will not be able to have a sustainable supply of water in the future.
But this I need to know, because have we not had a regulator all the time?
We never had a proper regulator. The Water Resource Agency was never given the legislative teeth to regulate the sector. WASA is just one player in that water ecosystem. You have farmers playing an important role. You have developers playing an important role, because when you build developments and you build houses and what have you, you need to ensure that you put in place the necessary infrastructure to treat water before they are discharged into the environment. You have farmers extracting water from some of our major surface water sources, utilizing chemicals that can flow into our water channel, that can cause pollution. You have persons who operate in our commercial sector, in the industrial sector, and given the nature of their business, it can create pollution of our water sector and what have you, and our water resources. You need an independent regulator that has the legislative capacity to manage all of the players in the water sector that can impact. WASA is just one of the operators. I just name a couple of other operators.
So what you're saying now is that the first step that we've put in place with the support system from this loan has been to implement this regulation agency.
Right. So it's to remove the WRA, which is the Water Resource Agency, because it has been placed as a division under the Water and Sewage Authority. It has been subsumed. So it has not been able...
So they are the answer to WASA as it
Exactly.
stands. Right.
But that is not the ideal way in which you put your regulator.
Right.
All around the world, your regulator is independent. It is set up independently from the water operators, and they are given the legislative capacity in order to govern the entire water sector. And that is what is happening right now.
So as in we getting the legislative capacity as well?
We are getting the legislative capacity. We are removing the WRA under WASA. We are setting it up as an independent regulator, and we are giving it the legislative teeth to be able to govern and to manage the water sector, and to ensure that we have proper and sustainable water resource management in Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, tell me about some of the projects that we can look forward to.
Fantastic. So we are, as I said, we are going to be executing a number of contracts. Under the first item of the loan, we are constructing 2 huge water treatment plants. One in Santa Cruz, I see Santa Cruz Water Treatment Plant, extracting water from that main river in Santa Cruz. That will give you the capacity to produce 4 million gallons of water per day. And in Tobago, the Goldsboro Water Treatment Plant, that will have the capacity to produce 2 million gallons of water per day. So let me use Santa Cruz for example. A significant part of Santa Cruz's water comes from the Caroni Water Treatment Plant in Piaco. It is stage pumped from various boosters, Valsane, and other booster stations into Santa Cruz. So the vast majority, you have some wells in Santa Cruz, is certainly not enough to supply the people of Santa Cruz. When that plant is constructed, Santa Cruz will now be able to produce the volumes of water that is needed for Santa Cruz, and you no longer have to export millions of gallons of water from the Caroni Water Treatment Plant to go into Santa Cruz. So you can now get that additional water from the Caroni Water Treatment Plant and have it redistributed to other areas that are unserved and underserved.
Would the Santa Cruz water treatment plant be able to facilitate outside of Santa Cruz as well?
4 million gallons of water is more than enough for Santa Cruz. So it should bring Santa Cruz to at least 24/7 water, and areas in Bogmalatres and San Juan and some of those areas, Bagatelle, I think there's Bagatelle Road and some of those hilly areas, that water from that Santa Cruz water treatment plant can now be exported to some of the nearby communities of Santa Cruz, bringing most of those areas close to 24/7 water. But most importantly, I say, that you're going to have millions of gallons of water being freed up
All right.
from the current water treatment plant to send to areas like in Tunapuna, St. Augustine, parts of central Trinidad, and parts of the east-west corridor.
And what do we
Major
hope for
part.
the one in Tobago?
So the one in Tobago is the same thing. So that whole Goldsboro area, I think they get their water from the Richmond water treatment plant. The Richmond water treatment plant can now be scaled back. That water can now be exported to some of the other areas in Tobago that will now have an improved supply of water. And the communities around the Goldsboro area will now be supplied from that new water treatment plant that will produce 2 million gallons of water. So you're going to have 7,000 people benefiting directly from that new plant, and maybe 14 or 15,000 people benefiting indirectly from the nearby water treatment plants.
How soon can we expect these two plants to be completed?
We expect them to be completed in 14 to 15 months, once everything goes as planned.
So we mean at 2025?
By the end of 2025, we should have, those plans will be fully operational.
All right, fantastic. Now, Minister, a lot of people will be asking, why is it important for us to take a loan? We always hear in the budget every year, WASA is being allocated a certain amount of money. We've been seeing Ministry of Public Utilities allocated a certain amount of money every year. Why do we still need an additional $315 million?
It's very important because the government may not have all of the money at its disposal from its annual budget to undertake these large capital programs. These programs, they consume hundreds or perhaps billions of dollars.
But that's not what the PSIP for.
Right, but your PSIP is just about $4 billion for various ministries. So various ministries, let's say for example, your PSIP is $3 billion. All government ministries are competing for resources from your PSIP.
Right.
So the Ministry of Public Utilities, for example, would not be able to pursue all of these large capital investment because its allocation from the PSIP might be $200 to $300 million. TT dollars, that is.
Right.
So you cannot, under any stretch of the imagination, undertake these large investments that will take maybe 5 to 10 years for full implementation under your PSIP. Your PSIP, is premised on your cash flows, water, monies from your oil and your gas resources, taxes and what have you. You may not even get all of the money that you expect from your projections, and that can impact these the smooth implementation of these projects.
Definitely. Tell me about what is the interest rate like on a loan like this?
The interest rate is somewhere about 3%.
Okay.
And it was very competitive compared to previous loan arrangements that we entered into. And it is very much in alignment with other multi-sectoral banks all over across the world who would offer these types of loan arrangements for developing countries like Trinidad and Tobago. But in addition to that, Rokas, we are also drilling 6 new wells.
Okay.
We are undertaking major pipeline work. All of these contracts will be executed in the coming weeks. So in addition to these large water treatment plants, you're looking at the drilling of 6 wells, 3 in Freeport, 1 in Chatham, 1 in Clark Road, 1 in Tucker Valley, to increase water production. You're looking at a massive rollout of technology and SCADA technology, ensuring that we automate most of those plants, putting bulk meters on some of our major transmission plants.
We expecting all these things to be happening within the next 15 to 16 months?
Absolutely.
Well, Minister, you had to come back and let us know how the things going as they continue to progress, right?
Of course, and that is the reason why we are here, to report to the country that we have not signed a loan with the IDB. We are going to be rolling out all of these projects in the coming months.
Fantastic. Well, Minister, thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing this information. We look forward to the continued updates.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Marvin Gonzales, Minister of Public Utilities, joining us to give us a quick update on that loan program for national water sector transformation. The loan, of course, coming from the IDB, and we're looking to improve the water in Trinidad and Tobago for all. Stay tuned to the Now Morning Show. We have more when we come back.